All right, welcome again to another broadcast. Today is Friday, January the 23rd, 2026. I'm still getting it. It usually takes me a month to get these dates, but yeah, we got it. But coming to you live, I'm broadcasting, as always, from the beautiful state of Arizona. Well, today it wasn't necessarily fully sunny. It was mostly cloudy, but it was still a wonderful day. We made it, y'all. We made it to the end of yet another week. I hope, that this week was good for you. If you're alive, then it was pretty good. You ended up okay. I know we got our friends and family over in most part of the country, from central part of the United States going all the way to the eastern seaboard. From all the weather people are telling us is that there is a major snowstorm that's heading you guys' way. So, we hope that you guys do all that you need to do to prepare for that. I'm watching the news and, everybody's getting the milk and the bread and everything else. I was reading one person, they said they already got the stew in the pot and all of that kind of stuff. Make sure you're doing all the basics. Make sure that you got your water, of course, and just all the basics. Don't panic, okay? Don't jump into the panic thing. If you've been listening to this platform or platforms like ours, we have been telling you, instructing you how to prepare for things like this. Anyway, you should already be prepared and got your stuff together. So just for your extreme, emergency stuff. But all in all, don't, and I'm sure there are a lot of people already saying, in the Bible, it said this was going to happen, or whatever. But don't y'all just sit back, relax, make sure all your basics are covered, and make sure if you got some people that you can reach out to make sure you got their phone numbers and all of that. Don't just remember, well, I had their name in my phone, but I don't have the actual phone number. No, make sure you have the actual phone number, okay? Just in case something happens to your phone and you need that phone number. Well, the name ain't gonna work for you. So make sure you got those important phone numbers written down, okay? Maybe we'll touch on that a little bit later, but we'll be keeping our eyes on it because we got some loved ones out on that side of the country, so we're keeping our eyes on all of that as well. Well, welcome to the broadcast. Well, today we got a loaded one for you. Hope you stick around and all of that, and I'm so glad that you guys are here. We're going to be talking about this thing that really, really ticked me off, y'all. It really ticked me off. Trump. I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked at this at all. But apparently Trump is turning on the Doge button. But the Doge button now is working towards Black history. And yeah, we need to talk about that. And it's not exactly Doge, but he feels that it's important for us to, to make sure we focus on the things that make this country great. We don't want to focus on those dark chapters, we just want to focus on the things that really make this country great, so, and somehow Black history gets caught in the crosshairs of that. So I don't understand how that's possible, but it is. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about ICE, this whole claim that's out here that ICE is like the slave patrols of old. Well, again, you're dealing with people. You're dealing on this side of your screen, someone that really loves history, love history, particularly our history, right? Really love our history, and so when I hear people make these comparisons, I'm like, no, that's stank. No, that's wrong, and we're gonna go into it and tell you why it's off. It's nothing really deep. It's just another dog whistle to try to get Black people reeled into the whole immigration thing. So we're going to talk about that. And then finally, we're going to touch on, it's a topic here, another topic that's, I think you guys will enjoy this. I hope you stick around for this part of it. This for the longest time, I know many of you have heard the claim that, Black people are emotional. Black folks, and Black folks have said this about Black folks as well. Man, we are just so emotional. Why are Black people just so emotional? Well, tonight we're going to talk about that, and it's going to be something that when we're finished, well, it's going to be something you're actually going to be proud of, I think, and so we're gonna delve into that topic. So anyway, so those are the three things that I have loaded on deck here. But first, as we're getting people, wait for more people to get on. I wrote a song. Got another song on deck for you. And this song, I am so happy to be able to do it. I said, I'm doing all this writing. I want to do something, that is more on a ballad side, a different kind of flavor, and I wanted to do a ballad. And so I did a ballad with you guys. And I hope you guys take a listen to this one. The name of this song is called Come Sit With Me. And I'll just set it up for you. And then I'll, go ahead and play it. So basically this song is really about a little boy. And he is so frustrated with all the things going on in his life. Little children think that, man, hoping that they pass a test in school, that if they don't pass it, it's the end of the world and all of that, so he's just overly just worried about not just the things in the present, but also things in the future. And then, he's just venting and just all of these things. And then the tree comes in and begins to speak to him and tells him, man, the things I've seen. And I think I really like the song. So I'm going to go ahead and play it for you. I'll be just sitting here just kind of, letting it play out or whatever. If you have any, you want to interact in the chat while the song is playing, go ahead and do it. But I'm going to go ahead and play the song. And let's go ahead and do that, okay? So welcome.
I was running from the heat of my thoughts, feet dusty, heart tied and nights. History test still ringing in my head, wondering if I passed, wondering what's next. Sat down heavy, back to the bar, trying to breathe before it gets dark. Thinking about bliss, thinking about time, trying to grow up all at the same time. I asked the air, am I falling behind? 'Cause if there's something wrong with the way I'm designed, so I rested under the shade of a tree. We didn't know the shade was watching me. All my questions floating free when a quiet voice said, come see with me. About love, worry about girls, how you hold that heart in a dangerous world. Worry about money, worry about keys, that house for a family I can't yet see. Worry about life from the school bell fades, if I be enough when the choices get made. And my chest felt tight like I couldn't stay, like your future was already walking away. He said, side, I've been standing on a long, long time. I watched the seasons learn how to rhyme, seen us get built, seen winds touch skies, seen storms swear that I would die. I've been thirsty, thought I'd break into, but the rain always know what to do. Seen players rise up, seen others leave, but one thing, child, I never learned to beat. I never learned how to worry. I never learned how to fear. My loose no never watery, so I rest right here. The sun gives me courage, the by, I can't get close. Same old rules, same prodigal, same place I live with hunger mind, same shade. Even by the time I left, it feared I couldn't pay. Lady D didn't even feel the same. Funny how funny life can be till you set it down under a tree. So I'd always come back when I need to sleep. Who I was and who I'm meant to be. If I'd forget how the we used to be, how could I could get conceived?
All right, there you go. That is called Come Sit With Me. And yeah, I put that together. And yeah, so we made that available over on our for if you're on our email list for Sabatry, I told you we hooking folks up on that email list. And so yeah, so they got 2 songs I made available over there for them. And yeah. And so, yeah, so it's not just that we make available some of the other, we got a lot of other music and different things we make available for them. Yeah, this is the album right here. This one only had 2 songs on it, but yeah, so periodically, we will put stuff on there and for our people on Sabatry. That's just our way of just saying thank you, and showing, expressing many ways on just how much we care and we are committed to seeing the health and well-being of people, that people that choose to spend a few moments and just listen to us, and that we're just not putting stuff out, but we want to really see people win. We want to see people, be well, especially during these days and times. So yeah, so make sure you check that out. Make sure you are on our email list. Go to sabatry.com. Make sure you check that out. Okay. So make sure you're that. And let's see. Let's move on here. I talked about that. Let's go to something else here that I had mentioned the other day. Let me get off of this here. That mistake before. Yep, we are now doing over on Sabatry. Speaking of which, we are now offering coaching, and this is something that my beautiful wife Nicole is offering, and it's called Coaching Through Love. Now, this is not a relationship coaching thing. Okay, she's not doing that, and this is something that's mainly targeted towards women. It is mainly targeted towards women. However, if you are a woman and you and your husband, you said, hey, listen, this sounds like something I think I would like for, the 2 of us to be a part of. Well, you could do that too. And so I'll just read this part here. This coaching is for you if you're capable of more, but you feel heavy, scattered, or stuck. You're tired or trying harder and want sustainable change. You want support that's honest without shame. You need someone to walk with you and to help extract what's already in you. And it goes on, it says, whatever you're building a business or building a home, rebuilding after burnout, or stepping into a new season of life, this coaching meets you where you are. And then it goes in. So if you go to sabatry.com, make sure you go to the coaching section, and the whole description is there, and all of that, all the details that you need are right there. So, we got some slots available there. So make sure you check that out, along with all the other stuff that we offer on sabatry.com. You see here, we got the Saba seasonings, for example. Did you know that we even create our own seasonings, our own food seasonings, natural, 100% natural stuff there. Check that out. And then we got the citrus sale that's still going on. So make sure you jump on that. If you're looking for some fresh citrus fruit that we have picked, or we have gone right to the organic farmers and got it from them that same day, and we're shipping it to you, we're wrapping it nice and all of that, and it's seeded. You want to make sure you check that out. Well, our January batch for soursop tea sold out. We're done for January. We're going to do another one for February, but for January, sold out. So keep your eyes on for February. We'll be making it available again on February. And then we got a lot of other things you could check out over on sombertree.com for health and wellness and everything like that. Check it out. Okay, so I got all of that out of the way. So glad that you guys are here. Let's go ahead and jump in and what we're going to be talking about now. Trump. There's a lot we could talk about Mr. Trump here. And let me close some things out here. And hopefully, did I not leave that up? Let's see. Had the article up. Let's see. Oh, I could just pull it up again. It's no problem. Let's see. Trump. History. Give me just a moment. Had it up, and like always, the thing just be tripping. All right, let's see. I will go to this one, and hold on, let me see, because there was an article. Here it is. Here it is. This is what I was looking for. Okay, sorry about that, y'all. This is what I was looking for. There we go. This and one more. If I were to tell you guys how many tabs I got open, you probably maybe some of y'all be surprised, but man, it's there's so many tabs I got to close out, man. I just don't even know. Anyway, let's get into it here. So. Some of y'all may have heard this story, maybe others have not, but in case, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it for you. Philadelphia sues Trump administration over removal of memorial honoring people enslaved by George Washington. And let's go into it. It says the city of Philadelphia filed a federal lawsuit on Thursday against the Trump administration over the National Park Service's removal of the slavery memorial at the president's house in the city, an exhibit that honored the lives of 9 people enslaved there by George Washington. The complaint, which was filed in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania against the National Park Service and the U.S. Department of the Interior, which oversees NPS. The lawsuit also names Interior Secretary Doug Burgum and NPS Acting Director Jessica Bolrun. The city argues that by removing the panels, telling the stories of the enslaved people without notice, NPS has violated several congressional laws as well as a 2006 agreement NPS made with the city and laid out the terms for building the exhibit, which opened to the public in 2010. Right? I can't say I actually been to this exhibit here. That was back in 2000. Because this is Independence Hall. If you're familiar with Independence Hall in Philadelphia, there's a lot of stuff here. Like I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, how did I pass this thing? Anyway, it's there. And like where this grass is right here, this is Independence Hall right here. Like where they signed the Declaration of Independence. It's right in this area right here where you see my mouse is, where you can't see it right now. Yeah, that's weird. It's right next to the Bourse. Okay, anyway, defendants violated the agreements with the city and have not provided any rationale for the abrupt change in course of rendering their actions arbitrary. And what is that? Capricious. And not in accordance with law, the complaint alleges. The lawsuit argues that because the city of Philadelphia had an equal right under the 2006 agreement to approve the final design of the president's house project, the city should also have the authority to review and approve any changes to the exhibit. The city's right to approve the exhibit's final design, including the interpretive displays, would be meaningless if the NPS could at any time later change or remove the displays without the city's approval, the lawsuit states. And then I'll just read this part here. A spokesman for the Department of the Interior told ABC News in a statement on Friday that the removal of the slavery exhibit is a move that complies with President Donald Trump's March the 27th, 2025 executive order restoring truth and sanity to American history. Talk about a slap in the face. Anyway, which directed the Interior Department to remove divisive, race-centered ideology and narratives from federal cultural institutions. So you see here, this is there's a video. I actually had the video, but it's them literally ripping this thing down, and it basically talks about just what the article says is that that it was honoring the slaves that actually were with George Washington, that George Washington had working for him, and they said, no, we're going to take it down. We're going to take it down. And so this is the proclamation, or whatever you want to call it, that Trump is referring to, or his spokesperson is referring to. It's called the Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History. Now, as we're getting into this here, I'm just laying it out, and then there's going to be a little bit of weeds that we're going to get into. All right. There's going to be a little bit of weeds, and you'll know what I'm talking about in a little bit here. But let me read the first paragraph because that sets it up. And then I'm just going to jump down to what they're talking about, what's going on in Philly. Okay. All right. So here we go. Section 1, Purpose and Policy. Over the past decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history, replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. The revisionist movement seeks to undermine the remarkable achievements of the United States by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. Under this historical revision, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, or otherwise irredeemably flawed. Rather than fostering unity and a deeper understanding of our shared past, the widespread effort to rewrite history deepens society, divides, and fosters a sense of national shame, disregarding the progress America has made and the ideas that continue to inspire millions around the globe. All right, so anyway, that's the first paragraph here. I'll just read a little bit of the second here because it goes right into the Philly part, because that's what I'm concerned about. The prior administration advanced this corrosive ideology at Independence National Historical Park in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where our nation declared that all men are created equal. The prior administration sponsored training by an organization that advocates dismantling Western foundations and interrogating institutional racism, and pressured National Historical Park rangers that their racial identity should dictate how they convey history to visiting Americans because America is purportedly racist. And then it goes on and it talks about that was really the section I wanted to get to there. And it was certain things, it was certain landmarks. It was one in, it was talking about Smithsonian Institute where he was targeting that. And then he was also targeting this place in Philadelphia. All right. So those are the two places that he's targeting there. Okay. So let's just unpack this for a second here. Let's just unpack all of this. So number one, what he's referring to, what Trump was in the Trump administration is referring to is, you guys remember, and this is part of it. This is part of it. Project 1619. This was a project that was basically, it was a whole initiative to teach Black history. Okay. And I'm doing that for a reason. That's my asterisk there. But here's the thing. Here was the caveat. The caveat was we're going to teach Black history, but we're going to use Black history as a conduit, if you will, to also layer in LGBTQ. All right. So do you guys remember, what was it, a few years ago, a couple of years ago, when there was this big battle going on down in Florida, where Florida, the state of Florida, was like, no, we're canceling that whole curriculum. And so people automatically assumed and just heard, oh my gosh, they're canceling Black history. They're not teaching Black history. Oh my God, do you see what they're doing? They're canceling Black history. Well, we've done actually a couple of videos on this where we looked into it. And no, the answer to that was no, they were not canceling Black history. What they were actually doing is that they were canceling that curriculum because they I would say beautifully identified, laid it out on their website and said, this is Black history. This is what Project 1619, this is what they're presenting. And so they said, we're going to continue to teach this, but we're not teaching that. And so a lot of people, Black folks on the left, they didn't want to hear that part. They just wanted to run with the whole, he's canceling all Black history and that there are Black books that are being banned and all of that. We actually looked into it and that wasn't true either. Okay. So on the left, they're repackaging, if you will, of history, particularly Black history. It ain't just Black history, just straight up Black history, okay? It's agenda packed with other things that is, in my view, and I'm sure for some of you guys, it's very distracting from the centerpiece, which should be Black history in of itself. We're not getting into the gender identification of people who wore a dress and who didn't. We ain't talking about that. We want to hear the stories. We want to hear all this other stuff, right? And so that is what Trump was talking about, okay? Just follow me now, because some of y'all, you may think I'm getting ready to defend Trump. I'm not. It's going to be way the opposite, okay? But I'm just setting you up and letting you know what it initially, how this whole thing erupted. So yeah, so what this Project 1619 and other initiatives were doing, that's what they were doing when they were talking about Black history. So anytime you hear anybody on the left talking about Black history, that's usually what's packed into it, okay? Okay, so now fast forward, here comes Trump saying, okay, we're going to use that and say we're going to start tearing down all this other stuff. So this is where he's going way off. Okay, because again, he's talking about, because if you read what he's saying here, and I'll go back here. Let me just go back and read that part again, the beginning part. He said, let's see, the revisionist movement seeks to undermine the remarkable achievements of the United States by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. Okay, so let's do a full stop there. That's historically accurate. Okay, slavery did happen. Okay, George Washington had slaves. That's not revisionism. He literally had slaves. But let's continue on a little bit here. Let me see if I could pull this up. If I moved a little bit quicker, I would have had it already queued up for you guys. But some of y'all may have remembered, and some of y'all probably don't. But when we were living, before we moved back out here to the West, we were living in, in the Philadelphia area. Let me go to my and go back to my YouTube page here, and I'm gonna do a search right quick here. Where is it? I did a documentary on Philadelphia, and I'm trying to see where it is. Oh, and I'm looking right at it. Okay, here it is. I think this is it right here. Yeah, I did a short documentary on Philadelphia and Black history in Philadelphia. It's right here. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this is it right here. There it is. July the 4th, 1776. The Second Continental Congress unanimously adopted the Declaration of Independence, announcing the colony's separation from Great Britain. And while history was being made within the walls of Independence Hall in Philadelphia, right behind this building, the histories of another group of people were being buried right under the soil. In this video, we will uncover some of that history that must be remembered and never forgotten. Our story begins here, the Delaware River. In 1684, a ship named the Isabella anchored in Philadelphia's port with approximately 150 captured Africans, which is considered the first shipment of enslaved Africans to arrive in the city after Penn's arrival. Between 1718 and 1804, at least 10 vessels that participated in the transatlantic slave trade docked in Pennsylvania ports carrying an estimated 1,000 enslaved Africans, according to the online database Slave Voyages. Another 103 vessels carried more than 1,400 enslaved Africans from South America, the Caribbean, and other American colonies to Pennsylvania between 1709 and 1776, according to the database. It is estimated that upwards to 5,000 Africans were sold as slaves in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. From there, they were dispersed throughout the region as house servants and field hands. While shoddy record keeping may have made it difficult for historians to track down the place of origin. I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. But yeah, it's called African History, that was literally buried in Philadelphia. And in this documentary, I actually went through, that's me there. And I'm wearing the same shirt. Hey, I got the same haircut. Hey, I got the same beard. Hey, ain't that something? That's play. Anyway, so I went throughout I was on both sides. I didn't just go in Philly. I was on the New Jersey side as well. And what I did was I took viewers to these different areas that a lot of people wouldn't even know, if you're not from the area where, slave ships came in. Because a lot of times when people think of Philadelphia, they don't think of slave ships coming into Philadelphia, but that did in fact happen. And so we stood at the part where, slave ships were brought in. They would let off on the New Jersey side. And then from there, what happened was they took smaller ships and then would, go over to the Philadelphia side. And that's where they would disperse and all of that. And that's probably how George Washington got his slaves. And that was probably one of the ways he got it, is through that way, because they had marketplaces there. Then we talk about why New Jersey is called the Garden State and all of that. I took you to different parts in Camden, New Jersey, and then we went all throughout Philadelphia. And then we're here, Independence Hall. So again, if you got like 12, 13 minutes, check it out. That's our short documentary on it. But so this is a very personal thing for me, when we're talking about not just history, but Black history in Philadelphia. Okay. Because I grew up around this and, I don't know what it is about Philly, but Black folks in Philly, we take history very seriously. I guess it's because it's the birthplace of the nation, but, I grew up around Black folks who just absolutely that's all it was, just knowing the history of the area. And so when you see this kind of nonsense going on, yeah, it makes you pissed off. It makes me pissed off, at least. And so all of this is very important. And one of the things that we talk about in this documentary and in other videos as well, right catacorner to where Independence Hall is, like where they're taking that, stripping that thing off, where I showed you in the article. Man, it's about maybe a 7-minute walk from there. It's a place called Washington Square or Washington Park. And if you go there today, it's a nice little city park. And it's got all of this stuff dedicated to George Washington. They got all these different flags of the different colonies and all of that. That's it. But I did a little digging, and guess what I found out? That park wasn't always called Washington Park or Washington Square. It used to be called something else. It used to be called Congo Square. See, you may have thought that Congo Square, the only Congo Square was down in New Orleans, which I've been to. But that's not the only Congo Square. The other Congo Square was right behind Independence Hall. And in Congo Square, there was all types of things that was going on there. Of course, number one, it was a gathering place for many of these Africans that were brought over as slaves, right? It was a gathering place for them. They would sing, they would dance and all that kind of stuff. And they would sell things to each other and all of that. That was one place. But then they will also bury their loved ones there. And then over time, what began to happen was they later on, that kind of went away, and then they started burying soldiers there. And then it just became just a dust pile for the most part. And then over time, they just, we'll just make it a park. But if you go there, you wouldn't know that. They have this little tiny sign that I show you that tells you the story. It says Congo Square. But you would not know it unless you took some time and actually studied and know the area. And then I also showed you all along that street there, you had all the insurance companies. Well, guess what? Some of the things they weren't insuring. Them ships that were coming in. Okay, so you had that. All right. And so that whole area is chock full of Black American history. It's chock full of it. And in that short documentary, of course, I don't cover everything, but what my focus was to really focus in on some of the lesser known areas, because a lot of the stuff you can just, if you just drive through it, you can see it. One thing I really love about Philly is that they try to mark up everything. I mean, so-and-so coughed here, on 1800s or something like that. I mean, they mark up everything. There are communities in Center City you can walk through. And if you were to walk through today, all you see is mostly Jewish people, mostly white people that live. These are brownstone homes in the cobblestone roads and stuff like that. Those homes are very expensive. But there was a time where it was all Black folks that used to live there. But again, you wouldn't know it unless you were doing your homework, unless you were actually doing at least some research on these things. Now, why am I saying all this? Because what Trump is doing, even with that, is that he is furthering this whole thing, this movement, this MAGA movement. And now, I would say is racist. All right. This MAGA movement where they are, in fact, doing their part to erase Black history. Now, his argument is, well, that's just a dark time in our history. Well, let me help you out with that, Mr. President, because right in Independence Hall, right behind, not behind Independence Hall. So if I could, I wish I had like an overview map, but you got Independence Hall, then you got the long lawn that has like all the little things and stuff right there. So if you just go on Google right now and just do a search for Independence Hall, you'll see that long grass, right? Well, if you're standing in front of Independence Hall and you take a gander towards the left and you're facing like the Ben Franklin Bridge, right? Just take a quick look. There's a huge building there. Guess what that building's called? Well, that's the Holocaust Museum. That's the Holocaust Museum. So let me ask you something. So you can get rid of any vestiges of slavery. You can get rid of any markers that talk about the true history of this country. And I just pointed out Congo Square. You literally buried over that. You literally plastered over that and renamed it to Washington Square. You can cover that up. And then and you could tear down these placards that talk about actual history, where the one thing they at least got right was acknowledging these slaves that didn't come over here because they wanted to. They didn't have a choice, but they at least did something right on a small scale, acknowledging these slaves, and they even list them out by name. So you can get rid of that. Oh, we don't want to see that. We don't want to see anything. That was a dark time in history. But right smack dab, right there, pretty much right next to City Hall. I mean, right next to Independence Hall, you got the Holocaust Museum. I want you to really think about this for a second. The Holocaust Museum. Okay, first of all, the Holocaust happened in the in 20th century. Okay, so that was, America was way established when the Holocaust had come. The Holocaust took place in Europe. Okay, so it had nothing to do with America. If anything, America sent soldiers over there to fight against the Germans and all of that. You're talking something that took place in the 20th century. America was already established. And you're talking about a museum dedicated to an event, a very horrible event. Again, I would be on another channel and I would tell you more about that, but we're on this platform. We'll just play along with the YouTube rulers, okay? A very horrible event that had nothing to do with America. Nothing, absolutely nothing to do with America. And you're going to make sure that these people have a prime location pretty much right next to Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was signed. We're going to make sure that's front and center. But you're going to get rid of a little placard that's acknowledging slaves. You're going to get rid of that. But this one is front and center. See that? Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can pull that up, because y'all really need to see this, because sometimes, you be talking and you think that, okay, everybody's in your mind, but y'all not. I want y'all to see where this thing is, okay, because I'm not exaggerating. All right, hold on. Let me see. Let's see what would be the best way to do this. Maybe I'll go to Google Maps. Maybe I'll do that. Google Maps. And I'm going to put in here Independence Hall. Independence Hall, Philly. Okay. All right. So let me pull this up, because I want y'all to really to come with me on this. Let's see. I'm going to see if I could do a street view here. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, I want y'all to see this. Okay. All right, so, and I just saw out the corner of my eye, somebody was asking about the park I was talking about. Okay, so here it is. So this is Washington Square. This is Washington Square. This used to be, all of this right here, this used to be all black folks. This used to be called Congo Square. All of this used to be called Congo Square. And as you can see, you can walk right across here, and then Independence Square, which is Independence Hall, is right here. All right. That's Independence Hall right there. Now we're just going, it's all of this is like all next to each other. So if you keep going, this is that strip of grass I was telling you about. It's pretty long. And right here, this is Market Street right here. You see my mouse? This is Market Street. And here's the Weizmann National Museum of American Jewish History. It's a Holocaust museum, basically. So you can have that right there. You can have that right there. But you're going to get rid, but you got to get rid of this little tiny thing that they have. You're going to get rid of that's a little placard. We got to rip that down. Folks, do you see what's going on? Do you see what's going on right now? What these people are doing? This is, and now hopefully you're understanding why we're doing the things we're doing on this platform, like with our digital library. All right, and that's a good time to plug that. And put that up here. Yeah, our digital library. Oh, here it is. Let me just bring this up here right quick. Digital library. We're closing. I just added a bunch of books yesterday. We're closing on over 800 books. And my focus is it's not going to be in these. You're not going to find novels or romance books and all of that stuff. You're not going to find anything like that. I'm trying to figure out now how to start collecting children's books. I want to go back as far as I possibly can and start collecting and getting scanned, if I need to, black children's books that go back as far as I possibly can go. That is my goal, is to be able to do that. And so, stuff like this, initiatives, it takes time, and it definitely takes money. So if this is something you would like to contribute to, I have the link all on this right here. But we're already doing it. This ain't me like sitting on a bed somewhere dreaming this. We're already doing it. And so this is for history. This is historical books. Anything that has anything to do with Black history, be it here in America or in the Americas, in the Caribbean, that includes the Caribbean, and also Africa. We building. We got all of that in there, right? Covering all different areas. We're also, any documentaries I can find, I'm putting in there as well. What else? Yeah. So the value of this library has just gone up. The price is still the same. I'm not changing the price. I'm talking about the value of it, because what we just saw just in that story is that, again, you cannot depend on this system to preserve your history. You have to do it yourself. Somebody's got to take the stand, and somebody's got to do it yourself. And guess what? Those lessons start at home. They start at home. They don't start with the government pushing certain initiatives. It doesn't start with them. It starts with you. What we're doing here is just, this is just our little tiny part in assisting you and getting your, helping you to put your stuff together. You know what I'm saying? To give you a little boost. And so, yeah, I'm showing you that because I have to go back and change that post. There's an email address in there that connected, journeymanandwoman.com. That's no longer good. You want to go with this email address right here. This is the new email address. Okay. So it's all on this under post. All right. So make sure you have that. Okay. Now, let me just mention this too. And I'll just take a look at some of your, someone said they got rid of our Holocaust. Let me help you with that one. The word Holocaust, we talked about that as well. The word Holocaust, you know what that word means? The word Holocaust, I never want to hear a Black person say the Black Holocaust. I never want to hear you say that. Now, I'm not doing that, okay? Because there are a lot of people who don't know this, right? I want you to take the time and I want you to look up the word Holocaust. All right. The word Holocaust actually means burnt sacrifice. Burnt sacrifice to a god. That's what the word Holocaust means. It means burnt sacrifice to a god. Every other people group, when there is a massive amount of loss of life due to, random shootings or whatever you want to call it, what do we call it? We call it a massacre. We call them massacres, right? Like you see on my shirt here, these aren't massacres. This is our people rising up and to stop the massacres. Okay. And so we refer to them as massacres, be it Black folks, be it Asian folks or whatever. They are all referred to as massacres because that's what it is. But this group of people, they referred to their people going through what they went through as a sacrifice to a god. Now, if I had the time, I just came across some more information. Should I even, let me see, hold on. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. I wasn't even thinking on doing this, but let me see if I can find it. If I can't find it, I'll just post it on a community page. Just give me a moment here, and let me see if I can find that real quick here. But I'm not going to fool around with it too much here. Okay, it's right here. It's right here. All right, and I'll just let me move this over here. I'm glad you brought that up, though. I'm glad you brought it up, because this is the kind of information that we do need to be talking about, and this is the kind of information that we have in our digital library. All right, here it is right here. Let me bring this up here on the screen. Here we go. All right, so I'm just going to read this to you, and I actually checked this out to verify, and yep, it is true. Through months of, and this is someone posting this, they said, through months of work in the archives, I have discovered and confirmed that in the middle of the Holocaust, 1943 to 1944, Ben Gurion's Jewish agency blocked Britain's attempts to rescue 1,000 ultra-Orthodox rabbis and their wives and children because they were anti-Zionist. I'll just go in and tell you, I got to be on this plantation, digital plantation, I got to watch my words and all that kind of stuff, but screw it. I'm just going to tell you. But basically, I gave you enough there, but what I'll do is I'll post this on a community page. But basically what this is their work. This is their stuff. This is coming from them. Britain wanted to go in and to rescue these people. And what they're saying here, this is their stuff. This is from Ben Gurion. They said, no, you can't, don't get them. Don't get them. Because they're anti-Zionists. I'll leave it there. So all that to say, I'm saying that because burnt sacrifice to a god versus massive killings of black individuals, it ain't the same. It is nowhere near the same at all. When we think about all those lynchings and stuff, the first thing that comes in most black people's mind is, well, to God be the glory. Nobody thinks that way. But y'all call it a burnt sacrifice to a god? Nobody really takes the time to look these words up, do they? Ain't that something? Yeah, we'll get into it. But anyway, now let's move on. Now, because I know I got some people out here that will say, well, see, this is why, and they're already out here saying it. See, this is why if we had voted for Kamala, this wouldn't have happened. Well, I just told you. The other option would have been her pushing on, hitting the pedal to the metal to something like a Project 1619, where they're just going through all of black history and they're pointing out all these different people. And they say, well, I think he was gay, and I think they were lesbians, or I think they were, trannies and all of this stuff. And then pushing that to the top. Meanwhile, all these other stories get left out. And that's what they were doing with that project and other similar projects. So pick your poison. On one hand, you got Trump taking this stuff down. On the other hand, you got people who are wanting to redefine what black history is. So no, there is none of this nonsense. Well, if we went with the other guy, or in this case, other gal, everything would have been much better. No, it would have been just as bad as far as I'm concerned. So no, that don't cut the mustard there with that. You know what I mean? And then here's the last point that I want to add to this. Here's the last point. Hey, you remember a few years ago, all right? Don't get amnesia on me now. Now, you remember a few years ago how all those protests that were taking place, and black folks, I wouldn't necessarily put this all on black people, because a lot of these protests, quite honestly, it ain't really black folks. There's a lot of white folks in these protests. I mean, they be doing some of this stupid stuff. So, but black folks were cheering on the side on this one I'm about to tell you. You remember a few years ago when all of those Confederate signs I mean, all those Confederate statues were being torn down. You remember that? I remember that. Remember all those? We're going to rip down Robert E. Lee and we're going to rip down this. No, I'm not necessarily saying that, I like seeing those things. Frankly, I don't even care when I'm in the city. I don't care. I see a statue. They all look the same to me. You know what I mean? So it's nothing that really like perturbed me. You know what I'm saying? When you look on social media, people, you listen to some of these people and they're like, every time I would drive by it, I was just reminded of, and I'm like, okay, well, that's you. For someone who lived in those areas, you see one, you see them all. It never really was that deep to me like that. But when I would stop and think about it, I'd be like, oh, snap, yeah, he owned slaves, but I would keep it moving, right? So anyway, these protests, you remember they were going and tearing all these things down? Remember all of that? Did you think that you were going to be able to do that and there wasn't going to be no clapback to that? You thought that you was going to be able to do that and there weren't going to be no repercussions to that. You didn't think that maybe further down the line they would use that same logic and say, now we can come after your stuff and we can start tearing your stuff down. Again, I'm not making excuses for the Trump administration. I just called them out on it. I think they're pieces of garbage for doing that. But what I'm saying is, when you're throwing rocks in glass houses, always remember, you better make sure that you are at a very safe distance because you're going to get cut. You're going to get cut. And unfortunately, we are seeing the back clap on that right now. That's what's happening. All those people who were out there cheering about all those statues being torn down and all of that, I understood. I got it. I did get it, but I was just like, this is being done in not a constructive way. I agree 100% with the sentiment, but I don't agree with the way it's being done, because the way it's being done this way intentionally to rile up certain people. You know what I'm saying? And so, those certain people got their person in office, and now that person in office is doing the same thing to your stuff. You understand? So that's how the game is played, especially when you really don't have the power in this system. You understand? You're not in a power position. Now, I know people say, well, we do have power. It's strength in numbers and all of that stuff. Okay, well, it ain't. We got strength in numbers, but if you think for one moment, okay, we're going to turn it out and we're going to make sure we get our right person in office. We're going to make sure we get the right man in office. Let me ask you something. For whoever it is, Trump, or if Kamala, if she won, do you really think that the powers that shouldn't be in this country, in this world, are going to entrust their future fortunes to you? You think that's how it works? You think that's how the system works? That they are going to say, you know what? They're waiting on election night, like, how's this going to turn out on my money? I don't know what's going to happen to my money. Oh, I hope Jamal and them, I hope they don't vote that way, because if they vote that way, I'm going to lose all my money. Oh my God, please don't tell me. I'll just find out tomorrow. You think that's how that works? You think that's how this system works? You think that's how this? No, it don't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Both sides, they already got hemmed up. Both of them. They already hemmed up. Both sides are already hemmed up. So that's not how this works. That's not how this works. It doesn't work that way. I hate to bust your bubble and all of that, but that's not how it works. So when we talk, so I want to just help people out. When people say, yeah, there's strength in numbers, there are. But if you're thinking those numbers are actually making some concrete generational change at an election box, that ain't it. That ain't it. That's why they have people who talk that way. They always lead it to the street in protesting, and it always turns violent because it gives you the perception that you're empowered. But you end up just fighting local police officers. You're not doing anything to the people who's really in power. All those people that just gathered up recently in Minnesota in the streets of Minneapolis, you think they're changing stuff? No. That's all to get people riled up, to make them feel like there's strength in numbers. Nah, you ain't doing nothing. I just hate messing folk up, but it's what it is. It's true. You know what I'm saying? It is true. So there it is. That's how it works. All right. That's how it works. So anyway, for those of you just joining, welcome. So glad that you're here to our broadcast. And we do this, 2, sometimes 3 times a week, where we're just covering some of the news. For those of you who have been following me from back in the day, you remember we used to cover a ton of news, but I have since learned to kind of condense it down to just a few stories, and then the rest I'll just put in on post or on on our shorts and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, let me take a short break here, and then when I come back, what we'll do is we will talk about this ICE thing, and then we're going to get into this whole claim about black folks being emotional. Are we too emotional? Let's talk about that. It's something I think you guys are going to be very proud of when we're finished.
From the leaf to the bottle, yeah, we slow it down. No rush in the process, we let love come around. Yeah. Sun on the flavor, I'm in the blend. Once you taste something real, you don't play pretend. Ain't no shortcuts, ain't no disguise. You can see it in the color, taste it when you try. Grown folks sip, yeah, it hit just right. Daytime cooler, warm late night. If you know, then you know what I mean. When it's brewed real slow, keep it clean. Let me tell you what it is, my friend. Brewed, not powdered. Fresh, not pretend. Summer trees, sour sop. You wanna sit back again and again. Brewed, not powdered. Fresh, not pretend. Summer trees, sour sop. You wanna sit back again and again. Out again, again. Pop that cap, hear the sound, let it breathe. Pour it slow, let it cool, yeah, you know what you need. No fake flavors, hiding in the mix, just smooth real tea. When it touch your lips, everybody asking what's that you got. I say once you go brewed, you don't go back to not. It ain't a trend, now this a way of life. Simple ingredients.
All right. Make sure you check us out over on SambaTree.com. SambaTree.com. Make sure you check us out over there. Let's get back into it, and really appreciate you guys being here with us. Let's get into this next story here. And this is that claim that many of you may have heard, that making a comparison between how ICE, in fact, this is a quick article here. We're certainly not going to read all of it, but how ICE compares to slave patrols back when America was great. And then they go in and they make these, I'll read the first part. I'll just read the first part. And say, comparing immigration and customs enforcement, ICE to American slave patrols start with a core understanding of their missions. The primary function of slave patrols was to capture and to return enslaved people who have escaped. They rode nightly to hunt for runaways, track escape routes, and return people to enslavers. The primary function of ICE is to capture and to return undocumented immigrants within American borders. They ride day and night to hunt for the undocumented, track escape routes, and return people to their own country or any country that will house them. I'll just continue to read since we're here. Slave patrols enforce order through surprise raids, whippings, interrogations, and breaking up gatherings. Their presence was meant to instill fear and prevent resistance. They were responsible for enforcing laws restricting movement, assembly, literacy, possession of weapons, and travel without written permission. They acted as the state's enforcement arm of racial hierarchy. All right, I'll just stop there. because I'll just say this, whoever the person that wrote this is a very foolish comparison. And just right off the top, how can I say that? Well, because number one, the big difference between ICE and slave patrols is slavery. Yes, slavery. Okay, Jimenez and Rodrigo and all these people that are coming across our border, they're not in slavery. Okay, so that's the huge mountain of impossibility that you have to climb over to make that comparison. These people came to this country because that is what they wanted to do. Whatever their reasons are, they came over. That's number one. Number two, they came over and the government actually gave them money, gave them housing, gave them education, gave them jobs. And then some, depending on what city they were in, they were actually given protection. When we read about the slaves that would go, that would escape the South and head up north, there's a reason why John Box Brown had to come up to the north in a box. Okay, I don't hear of any people coming from, Mexico or wherever shipping themselves in a FedEx box. They can just walk over. In some cases, they can just drive over. But he had to make sure, listen. If I had the ability, if we had the ability and I was trying to escape slavery from the South, I think I would have done. I would have probably gone the box route too. I'm no joke. I think I would have done that too. Because listen, I want guaranteed delivery. Okay. I'm gonna give you 123 Main Street, okay, on the second floor, and you could just leave it there, okay. You ain't gotta sign for it, nothing like that. Just leave the box there, okay. And then they'll take care of the rest. But yeah, I want direct delivery, okay. Just save me the trip. Let me save all the running from dogs and gotta eat out of someone's dog bowl and all that stuff. Man, listen, just put me in a box, put me in a crate, and I'll figure out the peeing and the dookie stuff. I'll figure that out. I'll put some food up in there, pat me in with some hay or something like that, and I want direct delivery. Okay, I want to make sure I get there. But anyway, but you don't hear no people coming from the southern border. They ain't going through any of that. They come over here. Look at the people from Somalia. They come over there and they handed them millions of dollars, giving them health care and all that kind of stuff. So no, this ain't. What he said? He said, he said, next day, yes, sir. You put me in next day. I don't know, no USPS. Because that joint be getting lost, okay? I mess around, I go USPS, I'll end up, being shipped from South Carolina, and I wake up, I'm like, I'm here. And they open up the box, and I'm in New Orleans somewhere. I'm in Jackson, Mississippi. In a cotton field. I'm like, wait a minute. I said Philly. How'd I end up in Jackson, Mississippi? Because you put on the box USPS. You shouldn't have went USPS. You should have, if anything, you could have gone with Amazon. I mean, we can kind of do 2-day, because they used to guarantee that 2-day delivery. They don't do that. I don't think they're getting away from that now. But yeah. And ship some of y'all, and then they be, look, your people up north be tracking that, doing that tracking. It's like, wait a minute now. Now, it says the box left South Carolina, but why is it been saying is in transit for 20 days? And next thing you know, you see it is in red talking about, we had to return this box. It was leaking. We heard somebody coughing. Yeah, man. No, no, sir. FedEx me. All right. So anyway, so as you can see, there's a lot of differences, between ICE and the slave patrols. That is a very bad comparison. These people have the full option. If they want to get up and leave, they can get up right now, walk and leave, and there ain't no consequence. They can just leave. I mean, in some cases, the government will actually pay for their ticket to go back home. We didn't have such luxuries. So I don't want to hear anybody at all, anybody I hear making those comparisons, hit them with that history and give them the reminder that no, there is no comparison between slave patrols and ICE. You're talking worlds of difference between the two. All right, so let's get to the last thing here. Again, so glad that you guys are here. Really appreciate it. And let's talk about this. Now, many times I know me growing up and, just through the years or whatever, we've heard people say, look at me, I got grease building up on my face. I'll check my face out. Anyway, we will always hear like how the characterization, what characterizations of black people aren't out there. I mean, it's a bunch of them, but one in particular that stands out, and the one we're going to focus on, is that black people tend to be very emotional. We're just a very emotional people. Oh, you can't say nothing. Y'all just loud and just emotional and all of that stuff. And, it wasn't until I started going down this path that I've been going on, and how, different learning patterns of us, or black folks, and then other groups too, but really putting the focus on black folks. And, we been talking about, if you've been following some of the posts I've been putting on our community page and some of the shorts, we've been talking about, having really good conversations, talking about how, just starting with mathematics, for example, that don't buy into the lie that I know that there are statistics and studies that show that black people tend to score the lowest in mathematics in comparison to other groups. But it does not mean that we as black people do not understand math. We do understand math. And in fact, let me, I know I played this, did I? I don't know if I played it or not, but it's worth playing again, because I want to use this as a jump into this very short thing I'm going to talk about, what we're getting ready to get into now, because I think it does a good job in getting you to at least visualize how we learn. So I'm going to go to my shorts right here real quick. Here we go. And it's this one right here. No, it's this one. Here it is. Bad at math. When Europeans came to Africa, they saw mud huts. But what the people living there, well, they saw something different. They saw a way to embody mathematics into their communities. Homes reflected families, families reflected villages. The same patterns repeated at different scales. Well, that's called fractal mathematics. So if mathematics, it was already embedded into communities, how is it that we ended up to this conclusion that black people are bad at math? But the issue isn't ability. It really comes down to how math is actually taught. Because for us, we don't just learn math, we embody it. Now, think about your grandmother cooking in the kitchen. No measuring cups, no timers, no written recipes, but yet the food came out perfect all the time. That's ratios, that's adjustment, that's timing. That's mathematics. Now, think about jazz. Polyrhythms, syncopation, timing, musicians doing complex mathematics in real time without writing a single equation. That's pattern recognition. That's mathematical intelligence. Now, I want you to also think about sports. Think about athletics, speed, timing, angles, anticipation, athletes calculating distance and calculation in milliseconds. That's physics. That's math in motion. So no, it's not that black people are bad at math. We just learned it in our bodies before we learned it on paper. Math did not start on a chalkboard. It started in real life. We've been carrying it inside of us this whole time. There you go. So when it comes to topics like mathematics, we embody it. We embody, just like I said again, just talking mathematics now. But what happened was when we got pushed into this narrative, into this construct that we're in, well, the way they learn mathematics is not necessarily by embodying it. They learn it by doing it on paper, right? Writing it down, writing down equations and all of that. So the average person, when they're doing, for a lot of us, we sit down and we're looking through a math book. More often than not, we're like, what is this? I don't understand that. But if you were to tell a grandmother, I want you to go in there and to make me the best peach cobbler. And all she gonna say, okay, say no more. And old school grandmothers, I can't speak about these new school grandmothers, but the old school grandmothers, they will go in there and they'll say, okay, how many people in there? Okay, so let's see. You got this many people in there. So based on that, I'm gonna need to get this. I'm gonna need that or that or that or that. And then you watching her, and as she's in the kitchen, she's figuring out, she already has in her mind, okay, how much mix she needs, how many peaches she needs, how much sugar she needs, how much butter, and she's doing all this from up here. And she's also looking at the heat, right? And knowing like, okay, well, because I got this many people, that means I need to make one tray or at least two trays and all of that, right? So she's doing all of that. And then once she does all that, she's constantly monitoring the heat. She's saying, just leave it on that. And they say, Grandma, what do you put it on? Honey, just put it on like 350. Just put it on there. That's it. You sure you don't want to put it on 380? I'm hungry. No, put it on 350 like I told you. How does she know that? Instinctively. She just knows that. She ain't go to school for that. And so, and then it comes out, then it's a feedback loop, meaning that she tastes it and she's like, it's not quite done yet. Put it back in. It's a feedback loop. This is basic mathematics. And it also gets into advanced mathematics too. And we've talked about that before, but it's a feedback loop. When I say feedback loop, think of this way. You know how basically a simple circuit, if you develop let me think of an example. Just think of a circuit, and just any circuit, right? And basically your output has to be, I'm trying to think of one here. Okay, so let's say I develop a circuit and the output is going to be two lights. You have a green light and a red light. Okay, so the way I constructed this circuit is when, as long as the temperature stays between these two values, I want the green light to be on. If the temperature goes above those two values, or goes beyond those two values, I should say, either on the negative or on the positive, I want the other light to come on, right? Well, that's everything I'm telling you is mathematics. You can write that out as an equation, right? And so that's how grandma thinks. So she's tasting it and she's like, nah, that's not quite it. Put it back in. Let's do it again. And then it gets to where she is like, okay, this is perfect. So that's just one example. Then we talked about sports and all that stuff in that video clip. But okay, so what does this all lay out? This all lays out how many of us, how we learn. Now I'm talking about particularly black folks. It doesn't mean that we're better. It doesn't mean that we're like some space aliens or something like that. But it's the way we actually learn things. I think the word is immersive cognition. That's what I'm looking for. It's called immersive cognition. And so basically what happens is when we are trying to learn something, we embody it. We basically embody it. And so like when it comes to math, okay, you're going to write it on paper, but I want you to But when it comes to grandma, for example, she's like, child, let me just get in that kitchen and let me make something. All right. And so anyway, so let me just read some of things I got in front of me, and I'm gonna give you another example. Immersive cognition, it involves the following things. It's strong emotional engagement, multi-sensory processing, memory tied to feeling, and pattern absorption, not surface analysis. And what this means is positive environments accelerate growth, negative environments accelerate harm. All right, it goes either way. And so those, keep that in mind. Okay, so that's what it is. So basically, it's like this. There's another example. Let me see if I can find this example for you. And I thought this was a really good example here. Let me go back to X. Let me see if I can find that. If I can't find it, I'll just tell you about it. Experiment. It's a very interesting experiment this white lady did. Here it is right here. I got it. Okay, so let me slide this over here and we're going to watch this. Hopefully this thing doesn't have music on it. Hate when they do this stuff here. Oh, you know what? I won't even, you know what? We'll just, let me see. Hold on. Let me just play a little bit of this and see if it.
I was just in a bit of a situation today. I have to be here.
It's got music on it. I'm not going to take the chance, but I'm going to show it to you. We'll just play it and then you can see it. Okay. And I'll just talk you through it. Okay. So basically this video is going around. This white lady, was going around in a random city. I don't know what city it was, but she was asking people for a bottle of water. Okay. And so
a bottle of water.
Okay. So she's going around asking people for a bottle of water. I'm just narrating it only because she's got some music on here and I ain't trying to get it. So she's going around, notice the people she's asking, right? So I'm gonna be here for a little bit. I just asking, I'm thirsty. I just need a bottle of water. Is this something you could do to help me? And she's going to these different ones, white people, and she's asking for a bottle of water. Now watch what happens when she goes to black people. And she was just kind of pissed off because she was like, nobody's helping. Most of these white people, they just gave her the stiff arm. They was like, nah, we ain't. Now, to be fair, I'm not going to say every white person is like this. That is not what I'm saying here. And then, yeah, so let's, but just keep watching. What? This is not the one. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I thought this was the one. Anyway, I'll just tell you what happened because there's an extended version of this. Well, she started going to black people. And guess what happened? Black folks were helping her out. Black folks were like, oh, okay, let me see what's going on here. Hold on, let me see if this is it. Oh, here it is. I found it. Here it is right here. This is all tied into what we're talking about here. This is it right here. I knew there was a longer version of it. I was like, why is it cut off like that? So you can see the stiff arm, everybody giving her the stiff arm. Nobody's trying to help her out. Then she starts going, then they asked her, they said, okay, you should ask a black person. So she goes to the black person. Look what happens. So this was like a whole TikTok experiment. So now, and so here you got black folks who are actually immersing themselves into the situation. I don't think everybody jumping on it, but like that dude there, he kept it moving. Here's another opportunity. In this case here, he's given his own bottle. And I think he was actually going to give her some money or something like that. Okay, so I want you to see all of that. Because we can talk about all we want, about all the negative things that black people aren't doing and this, that, or whatever. And those negative things, unfortunately, we do need to talk about and we do need to address it. But, you know, from a more mature standpoint, not just talking about those things and then leaving you there, but talking about it from a vantage point of what do we do to fix it? And that's what we try to do here on this platform. So what I'm showing you here is is that this is a good demonstration. If they were actors or whatever. But I could speak as someone who is black, and I'm sure many of you are kind of the same way. Black folks, when we encounter something, regardless if it's in real life or if it's on social media, we tend to immerse ourselves in it, like really immerse ourselves in it. And the reason why we're doing that is, in many cases, it's because that is how we understand. That this is our way of trying to understand the situation. Okay, this is how we learn. Okay, it's not just you, it's more than you know, it's not you just giving me a book and saying, okay, I'm gonna describe to you the person's problem and now tell me the solution. No, we don't do that. Black folks, we tend to, like, if someone comes up to you and they got a problem, we literally will try to embody and almost become that person, almost to a certain degree, you know, a lot of times to a fault. But in many cases, this is how we learn. This is how we learn. Now, this is where it goes off. Where it goes off is that when you know how we talk about making sure that the people around you are, are on the up and up. In other words, you don't want to surround yourself with people who are basically going to always pull you down, meaning that they're negative and they're destructive. They really are destructive, right? And because what happens is that a lot of times we will immerse ourselves by default to these people that are destructive. And that could be people in our family. That could be people that we're watching on social media or whatever. And when you're taking that negativity in, I'm saying for a lot of us, not necessarily all black folks, but a lot of us, it's just something that we just can't help because we just put all of ourselves in it. I mean, to the point where we're just playing it out in our heads. Like, man, if I was that person, I would have done this and I would have done it. You would have played the whole thing out. You would have played the whole court scene out and everything else, because that's how we perceive and learn and understand and all of that, right? But it can get imbalanced when you're basically surrounding yourself with people who are negative. You understand what I'm saying? People who don't have your best interests at heart. And so that's why, we tell people all the time, listen, you have to protect your peace, basically. So that even means family members. There's going to be certain family members you're going to have to just cut yourself away from, because you're just, that's how we learn. We're very empathetic. We have a lot of black folks. We do have a lot of empathy, and that's how we immerse ourselves into learning and absorbing the situation. It's not just looking at it one dimensionally. We want to feel it. We want to kind of try to identify with the person that's the main person involved in the situation and all of that. That's how we kind of, get the true vibe and the essence of the situation, right? That's how we do. But like I said, where it goes off is when you're constantly surrounded by, or surrounding yourself with people who don't have your best interests at heart. So if you're always taking in a lot of bad garbage or just garbage from social media all the time, what are you doing? You are always engaging that part of you that's always wanting to immerse yourself. So you keep doing it over and over and over and over again until finally you just get fried. Or like in that short that I was telling you about, is you keep immersing yourself into some of these bad things, you're actually creating things in your mind. It's like you're rewiring your brain. The plasticity of your brain, you're literally rewiring it to always engage in negative stuff. You understand what I'm saying? And there's a lot of stuff you don't need to be engaging in. And that's why it does seem, when we talk about black folks being emotional, is because we use our emotions as a way of understanding the world around us. But unfortunately, we have put ourselves in positions where we've surrounded ourselves with people who don't have, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't have the gauge, if you will, to tell you, okay, back off. Okay, this is too much. Because a lot of people always love living in that imbalanced state. Do you understand what I'm saying? They love living in an imbalanced state where everything's almost, girl, give me the tea. What's the latest tea? Tell me this. You always want drama, 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 drama. You know what I mean? We shouldn't want to live in that space. That's not a natural space to live in. You understand what I'm saying? Remember, what's the baseline of nature? Peace, being peaceful. That's the baseline. And that is where we want to live, in that place. A place of peace. Is drama going to come our way? Yeah, it's going to come our way. But we don't want to always live in that space. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of people love living in that space. All these different shows that we see on TV where it's always about, I know we got Real Housewives of Atlanta, but you got other similar shows and stuff like that, and real life stuff like this Anton Daniels and this Corey Holcomb stuff. People just all engaged in it and doing video after video off it because they just love the drama. They love seeing people argue and they love taking sides. You shouldn't want that. That's the opposite of nature. That's totally opposite. Because every time you engage in that, what you're doing is you're immersing yourself into it to the place where it's almost as if you are one of those people. You're not just watching two people, Anton Daniels or Corey Holcomb. No, you're Corey Holcomb and you're Anton Daniels. We can't just watch these little stage shows one-dimensionally. We have to immerse ourselves in it. We have to take on their offense. We have to take on whatever it is that they're feeling. We have to take on their anger. You understand what I'm saying? We have to take on their sense of wanting justice and wanting right. You know what I mean? Or wanting to punch someone up the nose. That's what you're taking on when you're watching that. So when you're watching this stuff and you're engaged in this stuff, it's not a one-dimensional thing for you. You're literally taking that on. And when you're doing this repeatedly, especially when you're exposing yourself to social media, you literally are burning yourself out. So you want to protect that part of you that learns that way, where you're very, this, like I said, what we're talking about, immersive cognition, where you're immersing yourself. That's a very precious part of it that we have, that all of us have, particularly of us, I would say of African descent. We immerse ourselves. We feel our environment. We feel the people around us. We feel, that's how we do. That's a good trait to have. You feel it. It's not something that can be taught. And the thing about having that kind of trait is that it makes it harder for you to be manipulated, because it's easy to manipulate someone you put it in a book, because they can just rewrite it and say, oh, nope, in the book it says this. I'm not saying books need to be thrown out. I'm not saying that at all. But when you have personally have immersed yourself in it and okay, this is it. Remember going back to that example I gave, with the child, putting the child's hand on the hot oven. Once they've experienced that, ain't nobody can take that experience from them. You understand what I'm saying? Well, that's how we should operate. And that's what they took away from us. They said, no, we don't want you feeling nothing. We want you to make sure you get into these books. You know what I mean? And whatever the book says, that's what you do. Because they can control you with that. You understand? So this is why there's a rewiring that has to take place, and it starts with you, you know, getting back to that baseline, and that baseline is nature. Exposing yourself daily to sunlight, doing breathing exercises, exposing yourself to periods of just silence that you're not hearing anything, just complete silence. Things like that resets you. All right. Anyway, let's get to your some of your comments here. She said, people, make sure you subscribe to our sister here, Peace and Mind Counsel. And she's been putting up some great content over on her channel. Make sure you go subscribe to her, okay? People with ADHD typically do better with hands-on tasks than book-related learning. And Black boys get diagnosed with ADHD more often than not in school. Very interesting point. She's very, very, very true about that. And it's something, and they diagnosed, they said that's a disease. You can't read a book? Well, that's a disease. You got bookitis. No, we just learn a little bit differently. It's not a deficiency, it's just how we learn. And one day, it's just going to lead up to a couple of things. I was going to do that in this video, but I'll do it in another video. Because I already got it written out. I'm going to go through, we're going to do a physics problem and we're going to do a calculus problem. I'm going to show you the problems. And when you see it, at first you're going to be like, oh, snap. Okay, what are we doing now? I'm not a math person and all of that. But trust me, when we get to the other side of it, you're going to be like, man, I do this all the time. And I'm going to show you how we as a people, how we immerse ourselves into these things. And we do it all the time. You're going to see it in 4K. And I'm going to show you that. I was going to do that tonight, but, you know, this story came up. I wanted to talk about that. And so stay tuned for that. There was something else I was going to say. Let's see what else. Anybody got any other comments here? He said temperance. Yeah, that's another good word for it. But that's it. That is all I have. He said, calculus theorem. Yeah, we're gonna look at just very simple stuff. And I mean, because I actually tested this out on myself, so I'm not giving y'all something that I haven't done. I actually did it myself. I was like, okay, I just had this urge to learn. It was something in physics. I had an urge to learn it, and I was like, oh, that's all it is. Because I had to put it in a way that it was relatable to me, that I could understand it. You giving me a standardized book and telling me to learn it in that way, and if you don't learn it this way, you're a failure. I can't. That's not, just the pressure on that alone will shut certain things down in you. But no, we're gonna learn. We're gonna learn, and you're gonna see just how wonderfully created you are. And yes, that's our goal, is to see our people get to who we really are. And inside of us, it's wonderful. It really is. And you learn about it. And the way you learn this is just by sitting down and looking at nature. It's very simple, you know, and then finding the balance between nature and trying to live in these constructs. Well, that's part of the journey, and that's what we do here on Samba Journey. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this beautiful Friday night. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And if we'll see what happens, you know, this weekend, you know, I want to dig into that math. I want to show you that. We're going to make it very fun. I'm going to try to make sure we make it very fun. I'll have a post or two that will come up this weekend as well. We'll probably have a broadcast that I'll do in the garden over on Samba Tree YouTube page. So stay tuned for that as well. And I think that's it. That's all I have for you. But anyway, so that's it. That's all I have. You guys take care, and I'll see you the next time. Take care.